Monday, December 12th.
You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm.
Powerhouse winter storm is currently developing over in the Colorado area with a barometric pressure of 29.6. This low pressure is going to rapidly intensify throughout the day on Monday, reaching 29.3 by Monday afternoon as it moves through the state of Colorado, entering the Kansas area by Monday night. This storm system is colliding with copious amounts of Gulf moisture, with PWATs in many locations reaching 2 inches of water equivalent. This storm system is also colliding with Arctic air to the north, bitterly cold Arctic air. These are the 3 ingredients which are necessary to produce a major winter storm here in the Midwest, which is defined as 6 inches of snow or more. This particular system is stronger than the norm as the barometric pressure continues to intensify to a 29.2. The expert forecasters tell us in regards to East Coast storms that when a storm system reaches, it's either 29.3 or 29.2, it reaches the criteria where it's safe to forecast a foot of snow or more within the bullseye, about a 12 to 18 inch. Usually in the Midwest, we see 6 to 12 inches in the bullseye. This one is stronger than usual. As we pointed out last week, 1 to 2 feet would be a reasonable forecast in general for the synoptic setup. That's what we said last week. That continues to be true, but I want to fill in some of the finer details over here. There's 3 unknowns which are going to complicate things in this forecast. The general idea of 1 to 2 feet remains true, but in terms of particular towns, first of all, there could be some counties in South Dakota, even Nebraska, where this forecast is a bust, believe it or not. We have dry slots. The National Weather Service is having a very hard time figuring out where these dry slots are going to develop. And what happens when these dry slots develop is that the precipitation will start off as snow, and then at some point, just the precipitation will turn into a drizzle or a freezing drizzle, and just the snow will basically stop. So you could see that in a couple counties that might be happening. To know where that's going to happen, there's no way to know right now. So we have that potential issue. The other thing is that we do have the precipitation falling in the form of a liquid for at least a small portion of the storm. That's going to eat into the snowfall amounts a little bit. And then we have another thing, which is convective activity, actual thunder snow. That's going to greatly increase the amounts for those isolated counties that receive the thunder snow. University of Missouri said 88% of the time by a lightning strike, there's 5.7 inches of snow. Now, that doesn't mean that areas which get lightning will see 5.7 inches of snow more than other areas. However, it usually tends to be true nonetheless. Counties that get the lightning and thunder a lot of times could see about 5 or 6 inches more snow in that area than outside that area. Also, areas which are just to the north of that track of the thunder snow could also see significantly less snow than the other counties. We have areas right now in the Black Hills of South Dakota, the north slopes of those, it's the northern hills, I think, actually, where snowfall accumulations are expected to exceed 2 feet of snow right now. The 2 inch of water equivalent. So what that means is that, what that means would be about 20 to 24 inches of snow. Let's say the whole thing fell as snow. So the snow to water ratio is expected to be between 7 to 9 to 1 for the first half of the storm and between 10 to 15 to 1 for the second half of the storm. So on average, it ends up being 10 to 1 on average. So you have 2 inches of water equivalent. That puts you at 20 inches of snow. But you could subtract a few inches due to, we have up to about a 1/4 inch of ice in some locations. So you could take away a couple inches of snow from that 20 inches, and you would be talking about a peak snowfall amounts in the peak, like 18 inches. I would also think even 13 inches. There might be many areas that see around 13 inches in the peak of the storm. But in the northern hills of South Dakota, still, because you have the upslope winds, that's going to greatly intensify the snowfall amounts. Upslope winds intensifies, it squeezes all of the precipitation out of the clouds. So those areas will be getting more, and should any area where thunder snow develops, so you could see an additional 5 or 6 inches to those 13 inches. So you get 18, 19 inches. The upslope, you could get 2 feet or more. So I think in general, I would think 13 inches would sound about reasonable for many locations within the bullseye of this system. But there will be some isolated spots which may get 23 inches and perhaps even 24 or more in the northern hills. The 24 or more, I'm getting that from the National Weather Service of Rapid City, South Dakota. So they say 12 to 24 inches or 24 plus for the northern hills, for those areas, but in general, the 10 to 20 inches. The 13 inches I'm getting from someplace. I have a different way I'm figuring that out. So we have isolated spots, again, getting a large amount. The other thing is that it seems like this will be a blizzard, as was expected last week already. A blizzard is expected to form. This is a powerful storm system. We're dealing with the snow in the plains where the winds really pick up, and wind gusts to 40 to 55 and even 60 miles per hour is possible in some of those locations. In fact, we already have blizzard warnings in effect for portions of northwest Nebraska and areas in Wyoming. The thunderstorm with the snow, that is possible in Nebraska or South Dakota. Those things are localized, but they greatly increase the amounts of snow that fall. To quote meteorologist Dave Murray, he's a retired meteorologist that used to work in St. Louis for KTVI. He said that thunder opens the gates of heaven to snow. So it basically takes everything in the cloud and pours it down on the city. It's not uncommon to see 3 to 4 inches of snow per hour should thunder snow develop. So now if you look at some of the computer models, you'll see there's about 1 to 2 inches per hour in some of the heaviest bands. The National Weather Service is in South Dakota, or they're calling for some of the areas to be receiving the heaviest snowfall Tuesday afternoon, other areas getting it Tuesday evening. It seems like this is a Tuesday-Wednesday storm. For many locations, it's really Tuesday and Tuesday night with leftover snow for Wednesday. This storm is actually a really slow-moving storm, so continuous precipitation is possible, or at least on and off precipitation, well after the storm departs, even on Thursday, possibly even on Friday as well. But the snow that falls on Thursday or Friday should be relatively light. Going down into the south, that's where we seriously have life-threatening situation expected to take place, especially Tuesday night. And this is in regards to tornadoes. People should be prepared for tornadoes to happen in the middle of the night. A weather radio is the best. I always found the Midland weather radio or a Radio Shack weather radio. Those things are pretty reliable, very reliable. especially if you have them plugged in and a battery backup, and they have a very loud alarm. So you would want to have something that's going to wake you up in the middle of the night, since we are dealing with a tornado potential. Also, even outside the tornado potential, the severe thunderstorms are expected to produce damaging wind gusts well beyond what normal severe thunderstorms produce. Normally, we say up to 60 miles per hour. These are forecasted to produce up to 70, maybe even 80 miles per hour. And whenever you have damaging winds like that, you're always going to have hail. So these are, this is damaging stuff. This is for areas in Shreveport, Louisiana, Little Rock, Arkansas, the Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas area, parts of Oklahoma as well. Monday night already, there's severe weather potential in Oklahoma, but the main severe weather potential will be any area that's going to get hit Tuesday, into Tuesday night. We spoke about a week ago that the humid air down south is building, and eventually it's going to collide with Arctic air. This is the storm. This is a Colorado low. That's what it's called. And it's a storm. It moves across the Midwest. It developed off in the Pacific Ocean. It has moved inland already. So the National Weather Service has a lot more information about the storm than they did 24 hours ago. The storm kind of falls apart usually as it moves over the Rockies, then it redevelops again. And then when it has access to Gulf moisture, it really could intensify and turn into something big. We pointed out the three areas of uncertainty are the dry slots, the precipitation type at times is not going to be snow for many locations, and the potential for convective snow, perhaps even thunder snow, which will greatly increase the snow amounts. The precipitation questions will decrease the snow amounts along with the dry slots. A dry slot potentially could cause certain areas to see an actual bust. Just the forecast doesn't turn out to be true. So, on the regular 6 to 12 inch Midwest storm, when you have a stronger storm than usual, we put it up to 1 to 2 feet. With the precipitation falling as a liquid for part of it, that gets lowered by about 1 to 3 inches. And then you have the thunder snow, which could push totals up to about 6 inches higher in those counties. We have the dry slots, but in the bullseye, they're not going to be. I think there will be areas which won't be affected by a dry slot. If you were to have all three of these areas, you probably will be able to get counties which will be able to dodge all these bullets, and you probably will have some localized county that gets a max of beyond 2 feet, especially by those upslope areas, probably. But in general, I would think something like very similar really to that screenshot that we took on a previous podcast describing the Colorado low that was forecasted at one point to come by today, where we saw about 12 to 13 inches. That's probably going to be about the snowfall amounts for Tuesday's Colorado low. That's in the peak parts of the storm. I think that's going to probably be the high amounts. There could be additional snow. The additional inches of snow, a lot of that will be coming in the form of light snow that occurs as the storm pulls away. So the heavy snow that comes in that short time period will probably be in the bullseye just 12 or 13 inches, and then the additional several more inches would be taking place as the storm pulls away, or if there's thunder snow or in an upslope area. This is a major winter storm, a major storm system. It's also bringing spring warmth down south. We have dew points which will be going into the 60s. 1 to 2 inches of rain, possibly even more than that. We have been seeing recently higher amounts than that. closer to 3 or even 4 inches. The thing about this low pressure system is that it's just going to stick around for so many days. And then on the back side, a series of Arctic air masses is expected to drive into the plains. And then it seems like they will be going through some type of moderation by the time they hit the East Coast. It's not really clear. This is the forecast is developing also as we speak. It's not, normally meteorologists have a pretty good feel for what's going to be happening about 2 weeks out. It seems like this time around, it seems like more than 1 week out already, things kind of get haywire with the computer models. And at this point, it does look like Arctic air masses will be coming into the plains for the weekend and into next week. Wind chill warning criteria will almost be hit with wind chills in the teens below zero. We also might be talking with afternoon highs in the single digits for the upper Midwest for the early part of next week. You have been listening to the podcast Weather with Enthusiasm. You will now hear a 1-minute trailer.
Several additional feet of snow is expected by Monday morning.
We have a powerhouse typhoon which has developed off in the Pacific Ocean. A big shockaroo to many of you. This is especially true in regards to what's going to be going on in Alaska. We have parts of the world that are so hot right now. Temperatures are expected to go into the low 130s. Hey, we have a special guest on our show. What is your name?
A heat wave that's going to be headed to the Eilat area.
We're going to have to wait before we get into the next excitement.
We're going from one extreme to the next extreme.
27.1 barometric pressure. Feet of snow are falling in Japan.
Oh my gosh.
Weather. That's a time of celebration. Just Google Weather with Enthusiasm and they're all going to come up.